Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of College and Career Coffee Chats. I'm so excited. I have my hermana here, my sister I was going to say across the pond, but you're not in London. You are in Iowa, which feels like across the pond.
It has moments it feels that way. Yeah. Where am I? I don't
yeah,
know.
where are we? It's a time warp. But her name is Samantha Mesa. And I'm so excited to have her here because she is a morning anchor reporter for Good Morning Iowa, the ABC affiliate in Des Moines, Iowa. She has anchored and reported for CBS, ABC, NBC, Fox affiliate from the Texas and Mexico border to Rochester, New York. And she's originally from Colorado. She earned her master's degree from Columbia University's Graduate School of Journalism in New York, where she covered news in the 5 boroughs. And she earned her bachelor's from the University of Colorado with honors in communication and political science. So Samantha has some great experiences that we're going to unpack in this episode and also talk through Trio Student Support Services. We both connected through a Facebook group where we talked about Trio and we instantly vibed and chatted about all of that. I'm currently at NYU in New York. So, of course, we vibed about Columbia and New York and all of those fun things. But before I hand it over to her to tell her story in her words, I want to cheers. She has an amazing mug to share with us.
I love coffee, by the way.
Yes, I love coffee too.
I got this mug because it's just how I try to start my day. It feels so intentional and powerful and like just centered. So then cheers to an amazing conversation.
Yes. And if you're not watching this on YouTube, it says wake, pray, and slay. So I love that. So make sure you grab your coffee, your tea, your water, whatever you want to chat with us today. We are recording Friday in New York City and Iowa together. This is why I love Zoom. We could be in 2 different states and energies and like collide.
Mix of cultures. And I love that we're in such different places culturally, but in the same country,
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, repping.
Yes. So, like I mentioned, Samantha is first generation Mexican, Irish, and French, and has many experiences overcoming barriers with education. And we connected through Trio Support Services and her Gilman scholarship. So we're Gilman alum together, we're Trio alum together. Like it's crazy to me how Trio and Gilman and Fulbright is like the gift that keeps on giving, connecting with people all over the world.
Yeah.
So
it speaks so much to a network and the power of connecting, right? And you just never know.
Exactly. So how would you define first generation through your experiences? Not the textbook definition we can Google or find with like NASPA and stuff, but your own personal journey.
For me, it's been navigating alone in the dark without any flashlight, not being able to see anything I got to watch out for, any safer ways to go, any more efficient ways to go. It is just sort of like figure it out. And if you don't figure it out, you may only get so far. And being first generation, what I learned through my experiences was you have to understand the barriers that you're having to navigate. And you have to understand that you're facing different marginalizations than your counterparts that are not first gen. You have to really identify the just challenge after challenge after challenge that you're going to need support. You're going to need guidance outside of what your family can offer. And I think recognizing that is critical because that's where you hone in on like problem solving. And then like, and for me, education was at times brutally stressful to get through being first gen. At the same time, the positive I see in it is it made me very aware of so many different, I had to think about everything all the time.
Mm.
And I had to figure out a way through what looked like the end of the road if I didn't figure something out. First gen is very much almost like go hard or get shut down. Like you've really got to give it everything you got. You can't afford to be complacent or get comfortable even and just think like, okay, we're good. Okay. I finished that class. I did that presentation. I paid for my next semester of school. You have to constantly be looking ahead and problem solving, because if you don't, you could fall behind. There's just so many ways that your education can just come to a stop, and it doesn't happen. So it's like, as the saying goes, after you work twice, that's the cat's food feeder. It's automated.
I love that. We love a little pet action with us.
For food.
We love a good pet action. They want to be part of our journey too.
He's like, by the way, stop stressing out. It's fine. Just have a snack.
Yeah.
But it's stressful to think back to, my undergrad experience for many reasons. And I know that you have unpacked a diverse experiences of the different challenges that come with being first gen. And really, there's no one to guide you unless you get connected with mentors, people that are willing to invest in you. Otherwise, our families do not know the system. And I mean, it's just, and it is kind of endless in undergrad. I think back to it and I think of like, there were some times I just couldn't relax and just enjoy my education because I was constantly worrying about, have I, applied for financial aid? Have I applied for this scholarship? What book am I going to need next for this class? And it's, if you don't think steps ahead, you're going to have to drop a class. And then that adds another semester. And, we're juggling, probably taking care of family to an extent. We're working. We are trying to build a career through our education. And it's just, you're burning at both ends. And it kind of, there's no way around that. So Trio was a lifesaver for me because I didn't have to explain everything I was trying to navigate and figure out. They knew, they had an idea at least that I need major support. And then they also, like, anything that was happening, I went through a lot of traumatic experiences in undergrad. And with every problem, every crisis I was experiencing, they were steady. They put the time in, they stayed late on campus with me. So I guess, like, what does it mean to be first gen? It means you're a scrapper and I mean that kind of like we know how to hustle. We don't have any other choice, but we have a grit that is like, we also have a very deep gratitude for our families, and we have a deep understanding of struggle, and we're fighters. We believe in the power of education, and that it's kind of not an option to, I guess, to be, kind of overcome or like have. And education is not just college. Education is trade school. Education is just pursuing something that you can bring a solution to a problem and bring value to the table. We just don't have the luxury of quitting.
Yeah, the luxury.
I'm thankful for that because it pushes you to a place where you want to find your place in society. And education for me was a game changer because it showed me I can create a life that my parents did not have the agency to do. My grandparents didn't have the ability to do. And now, I'm where I'm at in life. I am I'm learning more and more and more about how to live with intention, and everything I went through and experienced. Now I can actually give insight and support to other people that are trying to get through that place of instability. So that's a very long answer, but it's also,
It's the
there's
truth.
a lot. Yeah, there's so many layers to it. And you say the textbook explanation is okay. So you look up TRIO, first gen, low income, students with disabilities, it's like those three little umbrella terms, the daily struggles that come with those categories. Like, we're tired.
No wonder we hit 30 and we're like, we're tired. Like, we've been at this for years.
We grow up so fast.
Yes, I think that's something that I've talk a lot through with students, is that they say I have to, you mentioned like take care of family members or like support financially, like mortgage or rent, or like to keep the lights on, to keep eating as a family, and the pressure that's on to survive on students, and having to navigate maybe a predominantly white institution where their counterparts are not dealing with that. They're just going to class and like existing, whereas you're doing all these other things. um it makes you really tired and burnt out, and these spaces have to exist for you to just, even if it's for 10 minutes or an hour out of a day or a week, to just exist, where you don't have to constantly explain why you're doing all these things.
Yeah.
Also takes away from that college experience, because you're constantly in explaining mode, even sometimes to staff members who don't work with first generation students, right? Like maybe student affairs staff who don't know, they just don't know, and they ask questions that just don't match a first generation student's lived experience, right?
Yeah. And also, we do not want to come off as complaining. That is a very much like, we're just trying to hold it together. And we almost feel like, what do I got to do to show I can hang with this, room of, more privileged counterparts? Like, what do I got to do to look like I got this? It's like, you definitely start to just figure out how to poker face, because it is a lot. Sometimes you feel like you're almost having a therapy session, but you're just like, I got a lot I'm trying to
process,
go through. Yeah, it's a lot. And oh gosh, it just brings back so many memories. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I feel for college too.
And you're still processing 10 years later, however many years you're out of college, you're like, a moment comes back and you're like, wait a minute, like, I was actually doing a full-time load, maybe working 3 odd jobs and like trying to figure out post-graduation at the same time. No wonder I was stressed. No wonder I was tired. No wonder I was like overwhelmed and then also I studied psychology, so I always bring it back to like where you're cognitively developing. Like your frontal lobe is not fully developed until you're 25. So you're 21, 19, 22, 23, trying to figure this out. It's like your brain is not processing the way it should be processing, because it's literally not developed yet.
And it's also in hyper stress mode.
Exactly.
And that is a blocker of retaining information and then processing, because college is all about research and then analyze, and what does it all mean? It's very much, you got to be you have to be very present and able to think analytically. And that's really hard to do when you're running on fumes, because there's just so much pressure on you. I think like I would have definitely enjoyed, I probably would have just been more present in my classes, that if I was, I guess if I was just in a different circumstance, like,
right.
I also, and that's something too, like, we are so hard on ourselves in academic achievement. I mean, it's almost like, the mentality C's get you degrees. That was not even optional, because I was like, I need to get scholarships to help myself get through this. So that wasn't an option. And it's definitely being first gen. You have to like give yourself some grace and try to just enjoy the experience in whatever morsels you can. I mean, I remember like going outside between classes and just like sitting by a tree, and I was like, I like this tree. Nature's good for my body. And I was like
just touch it and get some good.
Oh. And then you're just like, okay, that's my break for the day.
Back to going.
Yeah.
Touch the tree for like 20 minutes. You're like, I need this energy to ground.
It works though.
It works. It really does. Or like go ground yourself, sit on the floor. I mean, on the grass, not the floor, the grass. Specifically,
I sat on the floor too.
But specifically nature to get that good energy.
Yeah. No, it really that's so true.
And now that we're talking about like first gen, did you feel that you had to choose a specific major, or how did you negotiate maybe following journalism, which might seem like a luxurious degree versus the typical, you need to be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer to have a full-time, good-paying job that sometimes we hear in these narratives of first gen or like immigrant families or like typically underrepresented folks.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you had to navigate that?
Yeah. And I'm gonna just give a little bit of background for why I chose journalism.
Oh, yes.
And that, so my upbringing, I was raised cleaning houses. That was my job. Early age. I mean, cleaning houses with my mom. And then, my dad had a construction company. And so I was on construction sites with him, and I was, there with my brothers, huge family. And me and my siblings were his employees. And we spent a lot of time on construction sites, just from the ground up. And I also spent a lot of time working on his horse ranch, cleaning out horse stalls. And so for me, work was, I mean, I had messed up hands from breaking ice in horse water bins, and constantly, working in horse stalls that your shoes smell like horse poop. There's a cat hair flying on. But I just remember, like, always, it's just physical. Everything was outside, ranch farm kid, constantly cleaning up after people, cleaning up construction sites, cleaning up after horses. So it was just, very physical and just kind of in the trenches. And as a kid, there were two distinct experiences for me when I was starting to discover my interests, mine, aside from, just whatever I'm told to do.
Right.
And I loved watching Oprah. Her ability to make people feel seen, talk about any and every issue, light or deep. She's so skilled with navigating conversations. And I was just enamored by her. I mean, as a kid, I don't know a whole lot of kids that are like really obsessed with Oprah, because I got made fun of for loving watching her. I mean, I would watch her religiously, 4:00 every single day. And then I started watching news coverage of events like Hurricane Katrina, 9/11, and I could not look away from the TV. And my mom was like, she's like, you got to give it a break. You're going to have bad dreams. Like, it is so much negativity. It's all the bad things happening in the world. And I was like, why don't you care about what's happening to these people? And I was just like, these reporters, I saw journalists as superheroes, like working out of a place of compassion, courage, and then a lot of hustle, because they've got to hold, the powers that be accountable, or they've got to find solutions. I mean, they're literally like going to the crisis and then just trying to get those stories told. It's a dangerous job. And I didn't even think of it as being dangerous when I was just glued to the TV, because I don't know, their energy, I just felt like they are superheroes. They're everyday superheroes. And then in going into high school, I had an opportunity. The other interest that I discovered was doing hair.
Mm.
And my dad ran a women's halfway home when I was like 14, 15, in that range. And I started doing these young women's hair, just because I was bored and I wanted to make them feel good about themselves.
I love that.
I was always, I drove my mom crazy when I was growing up because I always wanted my hair done and I wanted her to dress me up cute to go to school. And I drove her insane because I was like this high maintenance little kid. But then, I was like, well, I like doing hair and I'm good at it. And so I started doing these girls' hair because honestly, people that are going through a halfway home, they're going through a lot of trauma and instability, and they have low self-esteem, if any.
Right.
And as a kid, it was awkward and kind of some tension at times because there's like very little social skills developed. And so I was like, well, maybe doing their hair will just at least be an icebreaker. So I do their hair, and it actually took the edge off. And we're just teenagers from very different backgrounds, and I would do their hair and I just kind of get to know them. And then before you know it, they're like, oh, okay. And they're just like, I'm like, there you go.
There you go.
Like, oh, I guess we're cool now. I don't know. But I feel like you don't hate me as much, so that developed. And then an interesting experience happened when I was 16. I heard about a cosmetology school that gave full ride scholarships to deserving, not just deserving, but people that qualify, low income. Like you can get a full scholarship if you come from a family that otherwise couldn't put you through beauty school. And then like give us a reason. Like, are you passionate about this? And I was like, well, I really want to learn to do hair. I'm like, I've been doing it. And I want to also, from my background, I was told, and this is just kind of comes with being in a marginalized community. I was told, you're not going to make it through college, and figure something out because, you're in this community over here. And I had in my mind, like, I'm not smart enough for college. And when I got accepted into the beauty school on full ride scholarship, and a big deciding factor, they're like, so if you don't get this scholarship, are you still going to choose coming to this school? And I was like, no, my parents don't have the money. Like, that's a flat no. And then they were like, okay, well, you're in.
We'll give you the money.
They told our class, oh gosh. And it's just such an unfortunate, it's an unfortunate stereotype. Okay. There's a lot of a high Hispanic demographic in that area and in that class. It wasn't just a stigma towards the Hispanic community though. We were just told as a group of women, you're going to need this cosmetology license to pay your bills, because when you start having babies and say your man leaves you, you're going to have to figure out how to pay the bills. And I was just like,
oh, put us in a box, won't you?
Like, that is a great way to start what I was very excited about. But then I was just like, I mean, first gen, what's my chances of getting into college? So that was an experience that it was like, really, I mean, this is just demoralizing. I'm just like, God, why do you just pretty much you make us all a statistic? You're talking to us all like we're a statistic. And, more power to all of us if we choose to have kids. And like, don't talk to us in such a demeaning, degrading way. So that was really frustrating. And I didn't have, I didn't even realize how much I internalized that. And I was just like, God, because like at that age, and when people say things to you that are discriminatory or stereotyping or put you into this stigmatized group, that you're like, yeah, that's kind of the way people talk to me. You're just like, you don't have I guess like the
like
language to
framework. Yeah, the language.
be like, that's actually really problematic what you just said to me, and I don't appreciate that. I'm going to make, I hope to be able to have the ability to make choices in my life to create the path I want, and who are you to judge? So that was an experience that really intimidated me from college. So fast forward to when I did decide to go to college, I was 22, and I was so intimidated. Oh my gosh, I was just relieved I got in. And then figuring out the financial aid and everything. So when I was in my freshman year, I started studying journalism, and it didn't occur to me that journalism was maybe a luxury of a career to pursue, because I never perceived it that way. To me, it was about hustle and being an advocate. And I knew it wasn't known to be a high-paying job, but I wasn't thinking about money. I was thinking about purpose and believing in work, and also knowing about like the representation in news has gotten better, but it was not good when I first got into it. So I just thought like, I was interested even in advocacy journalism. And I think I got like 2 years into my degree, and mind you, it's the stories the stories that are given as examples, these are like war zone type of coverage. This is traumatic events. Like, you have to understand you're going to meet people on their worst day. And so it was like, kind of in my mind, it was almost like being a first responder. You have to be calm, and it requires a very high emotional intelligence. And also critical thinking, like real quick, you got these deadline stories you're writing, and your words matter. What you say has an effect. I mean, it can change the course of history. So the journalism degree got cut midway through.
Oh no.
I was just like, can you throw me a bone? Like, it was hard to get this degree. So the talk was that journalism is dying. And, it started with print journalism, but then it was going into it. I mean, broadly, the degree got cut. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that sucks. So then I routed to communication. And it's just been a very zigzag path when it comes to education, because if you study communication, and also being first gen, I didn't have the time to get an internship in my undergrad. And so that is a pivotal door opener at that time. So I know we talked about this, like internships, especially unpaid internships, are a luxury, but it's necessary. It's a game changer. And it's sort of like, you have to be in a space where you can afford to do that.
Absolutely.
So that's a long question, long answer, but that's what led me.
And what you just said, the journey is not linear, right? It's a zigzag path, and I think even more zigzag, adding so many layers of underrepresentation, first gen, and a lot of obstacles that we have to face as a community. So I think that's why it's important to give the space for you or anyone on this podcast to share that journey and share that zigzag, because unless we talk about it, no one's going to know. Like, people are going to see the highlights on your website or on your Instagram and like,
highlight reel.
Columbia BA, like she's in Iowa now, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of work that went behind the scenes to get that highlight reel, right? So I think that's why I love this podcast, to unpack all of that and like all those layers. I did have a question. How long was your beauty school program before you went to your undergrad?
13 months.
Okay.
It went from one summer to the next summer.
Okay.
And it was for high schoolers to do it part-time through the school year and then grind
Okay.
it out full each summer.
Okay. Okay. And
Yeah.
those are like kind of the trade school options that they have, which can be good because if you don't know what you want to do for undergrad, that's a good kind of trying to figure
Oh,
out like beauty
absolutely.
school or another trade school.
Absolutely.
But I also sometimes see it as a tool to continue oppressing these communities, like you just
Absolutely.
mentioned, like telling these young girls, you need to get this degree because you might lose your husband later or like you're gonna have kids. It's like, how about we talk about something else? Can we reframe this? Like, if you want to go to beauty school because you love and are passionate is one thing, but don't go here
Yeah.
because it's the only thing, you know?
Yeah. And they also talk to us like a lot of us are going to be high school dropouts and then probably beauty school dropouts. So they set us up with a very low self-worth
Yeah.
and pretty much just like, yeah, a lot of you are going to flake out. And it's like, oh,
Like,
but that was a very normalized conversation.
which is so sad, which is why in a way I work still in education because I know I'm not gonna save all the students or like support everyone. That's impossible. But at least through this podcast or through my conversations with anyone, I hope they feel empowered to figure out what it is they love and what they want to do.
And
If it's journalism or
that
music or
that's
whatever.
the game changer. It's like you have to believe in yourself, yes.
Hmm.
But
There has to
I
be
mean, you
more.
have to have you got to have somebody. When I was first in beauty school and I was like, I just kind of had this I had very low self-worth and my older brother was the only sibling to be in college and graduate. And I kept on just being like, he kept telling me, you should go to college, you should go to college, because he saw how passionate I really was about journalism. And I think he also saw too, he's like, you underestimate yourself. And
Mm.
it's because of these things that are being said to you
Hmm.
that you're believing them. And he just said, he was like, you should go to college. And I would tell him, I'm not smart enough.
Mm.
I couldn't hack college. Like, who am I to sit in a room with other people that, are so far ahead of me in their privilege and access in life? And I'm like, that terrifies me.
Hmm.
And he was really, him and my grandfather were very much like, and my dad, he was encouraging too. He just he didn't have any insight to give.
Right, like
So
the social and cultural capital to push us to do it versus the like fatherly emotional like support. It's like we need both. We
yeah.
need the social cultural support on how to do it, and then we also need the emotional psychological like motivation from family or friends.
Yeah,
So
it's because when family life is falling apart, college feels like a lifeline, but also a luxury.
mm,
And that's
yes,
really hard to navigate.
for sure. Did you go straight to Columbia out of undergrad, or did you work a little bit before you decided to go to grad school? Because that's a whole other
I worked,
like decision-making process.
yeah, I worked for a couple years
Okay.
I guess it was just about a year. I worked in some nonprofits in downtown Denver, and I was just kind of hitting a wall it's just really hard to get your foot in the door in media unless you've got a journalism degree, an internship under your belt, a connection,
Mm-hmm.
and it just was not happening. And so I decided to bank on myself. I decided to start applying to grad programs, and I applied to Columbia, and that was a I mean, I felt like I'm like, this is fun. I'm going to apply to Columbia. But then I also was just like, that program, I was like, that's the one. If I'm gonna do it, like I want to go to Columbia.
Yeah.
And I told myself, I was like, if I get accepted, I'm going. And I maybe it was just that self-talk and the belief that,
Mm.
if I get in, that is like what more sign do I need in life? It's Columbia is the number one journalism school. And then, I didn't, to the idea of being at an Ivy League. I mean, that was just out of this world when you're first just considering everything in my background. To think about, being like worthy and
yeah. And also a huge transition from Denver and Colorado energy to New York energy. It's different.
Yeah. I had never been to New York either. So I was just, I think that is the journalist in me though, like game. And this is about learning the world and different cultures and different systems, different people. And I think like that is in my DNA. And so when I got my acceptance letter from Columbia, I screamed.
I cried. Celebrate.
Yeah. Well, and then I kind of, I had a shook moment. I was like, I actually am going to do this now. I'm like, I don't know if I really believed I was going to get accepted.
Now I actually have to do this.
Then I know I get accepted, and I'm like, so here we are. And I'm like, suddenly I feel like everything I ate is just going through me. I'm just like, oh my God, what did I do?
And how long was the program? 1 year or 2 years?
A year, just over a year.
A year,
yeah.
Okay.
Is a no sleep boot
camp. It's like you're in it and you're in it.
Oh my gosh, it goes so fast. But yeah, it was a little over a year, and it went too fast in some ways, and then in other ways you're just like, I'm dying.
Yes. yes. That's so true. I mean, my program is 2 years, and it's already the second semester of the first year, but I'm like, it's going fast, but also like there's a lot happening behind the scenes.
Oh man. It's though I guess like something I wish I would have been able to have more of these kind of conversations, because you're under so much deadline constantly. These kind of just cultivating more relationships and being like really present. I wish it would have been a longer program for sure.
Yeah. Because relationship building takes time, and like building spaces to connect with people. Like I think this semester I'm more involved in all the community building versus first semester you're just like trying to get your bearings.
Yeah. And I do think the programs, different master's programs, PhDs, they have a reason behind that. Whether it works or not, debatable.
Right.
But I know that the different phases of masters are shaped to develop you in different ways and develop your capacity for stress, your capacity for working under deadline, your, creative flow. Like there's a rhythm and reason to it. But it's kind of hard to see it when you're going through it as first gen. Because you're just like, great, here's another, what, wait, there's more? Like, I just like this out, but all of a sudden you're coming at me with something else.
I know, we were talking about that with a friend. We're like, we didn't realize there were so many theories and methods of like analysis and training behind like the language of grad school. So I'm having this moment this week of processing that. Is like, I thought, obviously I did research and all that stuff, but in undergrad, but there's just another layer. There's just always so much more to like keep deepening into that. If someone who in my family didn't do their master's in the United States, they don't know, or like a PhD in the United States, they just don't have that level of like training, as they say in academia.
Totally.
So that language it's a new language that I'm learning, which is fun because I love languages, right? I traveled, I speak different languages. So it's like, okay, if I can shift my mindset to like think of it as a fun way to learn a language in academia so I can speak with people, then it takes a little bit off the pressure of like, I don't fit in, or maybe I'm in over my head. So I'm like processing that this week. So I love that we're having this conversation now.
Yeah, I learned something when I got actually into news. I learned that when you're under the gun and you're just like, all you can think about is everything you have to accomplish and nail, for whatever said deadline. It takes you to a space mentally where you're kind of in fight or flight mode, and you are running on a kind of adrenaline that you're not fully processing in a way that you will a week later when you've had a chance to breathe, maybe work out, do some meditations, have some conversations and relax. And then you actually, it's like reflection. Hindsight is 2020.
Yeah.
The thing that you were grinding so hard on and trying to complete, whatever time later, you can look back and be like, oh, it's not that complicated. Why was I struggling so hard? Why was I so stressed? And it's like, well, because you did have immense pressure on you. And it's hard to think at your fullest, mentally present state. And I think that I realized that in a report I was doing. It was like a triple shooting, and it was just, chaos. And I just had this moment where I was like, oh my gosh, like I had to just kind of like do some breathing exercises before my life hit, and just like, what am I needing to communicate to viewers right now? Like, what are the nuggets that we know? It was an active shooting. There was a chase going through the city. One of our reporters got shot at. And so I was just like at the scene where the shooting started. Very graphic situation, raw, and there's helicopters flying around. And I just had a moment where I was like, I need to find my Zen right now, because I'm about to tell the community what we know and how to keep them safe. And a couple days later, I had, kind of taken some breaths and come down from that. And I replayed, our clips, and I replayed the day in my mind. And I was like, wow, like I can look at this now from a totally different perspective. And it's because stress, crisis, pressure, all these things, your brain is trying to protect you. And something that's interesting with a master's, I know these are like very different circumstances I'm referencing, but a master's really pushes you to it pushes you as far as you'll go, and then it pushes you some more. And it really is about, do you care about this? Like, how much are you committed to what you're working at? And I think the master's, it's trying to kind of like help you recreate you. And sometimes that you break things down and relearn them.
Right.
That, I don't know if that is like resonates at all, but it definitely was a part of my experience.
Oh, for sure. It helps you recreate who you are and what you're trying to practice or learn, because a master's and a PhD is a commitment to like the work that you want to do in that space. And it is
choosing it as a lifestyle.
You're there because you want to push knowledge forward, or you want to discover something new, or you want to push any industry forward with what you're learning and kind of add to that. So like we talk about this with my classmates all the time. It's like, we're here because we want to be here. Like we deeply have this desire and love for what we're reading and what we're doing, despite it being complicated and chaos outside sometimes. Like for example, here, I'll pull a book that is not part of the reading, but I'm reading because it connects with what I want to do. Like it's Hansier's Distributions of the Sensible, Aesthetics and Politics. So it's a very dense, like politically aesthetic book by a French philosopher from like the postmodern era that is like so out of what I live to day, but it's pulling and pushing my reading and my writing deeper, which is recreating who I am and what I want to do. So I love what you just said about that, because that's what it is. That's what grad school is.
Yeah. And, even the scenarios that I think of that have shown me, try to how to be more present. It's like the other thing too is learning how to handle stress
Mm.
and very high expectations. And then, critical thinking. You may be in a room of people that do not agree with what you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
your whatever it's like debates are respectfully debating, I think,
Mm-hmm.
is a huge part of education. And that helped me to understand, hey, I have a voice in the room, and it's okay to have a voice that I don't agree with, other people, but we can learn from each other, and we can at least be
Mm-hmm.
open to dialogue, because education is such, what I loved so much about, you know, open debate is just healthy dialogue, like hearing
Mm.
each other out. Diversity means having very different experiences,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not going to see eye to eye on everything, but diverse voices in the room, that's how we grow as a society.
Mm-hmm. And that's how we learn from each other and like connect and make different like connections within that. Um, that made me think of a question, but I'm blanking, so I'll wait. It was about traveling because you said earlier on about I got the acceptance. Now I have to go to Colombia. Now I have to do the thing. And you're excited about connecting with new people, new cultures. And I know we talked about this offline, but now that we're recording about undergrad, your experience with Gilman and traveling and what came out of that experience, and like how did you find Gilman? How did you learn about it? Because going in, I have a lot of students who say they want to travel and do things, but then they get nervous because of how to pay for it or how to do it. And with their family
Yeah.
responsibilities, maybe they can't physically leave home. But those are all topics I love because I also love to travel and also studied abroad with Gilman. So it's my fave.
Oh my gosh, I am just I support Gilman to the end of the earth.
Yeah.
And then you'll travel the whole earth. So,
Yes.
oh my gosh, it goes back to Trio. Trio helped me get into.
Mm,
They helped me to apply for a public policy fellowship because I
okay.
was trying to, go down the path of international, public
Relations.
work. Uh,
Mhm.
Yes, actually. Yes, absolutely. And my mentor told me about the Fellowship Institute for International Public Policy. And it's a minority fellowship getting underrepresented students into Washington, D.C. and abroad, getting us into learning other languages, critical languages. And so Gilman was a part of that process. Gilman was the funding to make sure we all got international experiences.
Mhm.
And so layers from Trio, it all goes back to
Mm,
Trio. And so I applied to Gilman, and I, pretty much from my mentor at Trio, they were the ones to show me the way.
mm.
And oh, by the way, applying for scholarships is also a full-time job.
I was just gonna say there's something behind the
So
scenes
much
of
work.
undergrad and grad students are constantly applying to scholarships, conferences,
Oh,
grants, and that's something we also don't really talk about, which is something to discuss on the podcast as well.
yeah. Yeah. It's scholarship applications are necessary. And if you don't do them, you're going to be cut short on opportunities, or you're going to go into a lot of debt.
Mhm.
And that is going to follow you after school. And that's kind of a part of a rigged system, I
Yeah,
think, because it's
right,
not equal opportunity. And
right.
it is kind of crazy how much time we have to put into proving we
Mm,
also belong in study abroad programs. We have to show academic excellence. We have to show financial need. We have to show vision for ourselves
mhm.
far beyond. We have to articulate a vision for ourselves and what we're going to do with this experience far more than your average applicant who can afford to go.
Mm.
So that's a lot. You really got to go. You got to do the most.
You gotta do the most. Yes.
You gotta be doing the most. And it's like, and then you kind of feel like when you get accepted and you get a scholarship, there's kind of, I don't know if I would call it imposter syndrome, but you almost feel like, wow, they gave me a chance. And you're like, they gave me a chance. I had to do next level convincing them that I am worthy of going. Like, and then it's like, no complaints. Not that,
Right.
not
No,
to
but
be.
that's so true because you have to
When
like
you
send
take, when you
them,
think back,
yeah. You have to
you
send them
have
like
to send them like
your like fingerprints,
background.
your arm and your leg to
You
like be
do. You
approved.
gotta prove yourself through the wazoo to be
Yeah.
like, I deserve to be here. And this is the only way I can do it.
Yeah.
So, and I get it. They have to be very rigorous with their screening.
Right.
There is that it is tough though, when
Right.
you're just like, someone give me a chance.
Just give it to me, please. Don't make me grovel.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I have to go back to trio too. It's like going back to basics. I remember I was already studying abroad in Australia for the deadline for Gilman for the spring. And my trio mentor emailed me and was like, make sure you're meeting this deadline, make sure you're applying. I submitted all my stuff, like recommendations and like institutional backing and like transcripts, like all this stuff. And I had to submit my portion. And we had a time difference. So she was like, make sure you don't miss the deadline because of the time difference and like all this stuff. And I'm like, wow, this mentor went out of her way to remind me to like make sure I do this. And that's just
Mhm.
like so powerful to
Oh my
to
gosh.
know
Yeah.
that we have someone in our like in our what's the word in our like experience in our spaces to like push us to do it.
And those people are angels,
Mm,
because they understand. For many of us, we've never had someone like that in our lives. We also come from a lot of instability, in that it's like the first time we've had to meet deadlines and go through very detailed processes and articulating a plan, articulating ambition, goals. We just haven't had that. We
mhm,
haven't had such structured processes in our lives.
mhm,
And then to have someone come alongside you and be patient and know that we're probably going to forget a deadline. We're probably going to like forget something that they got to work up to the 11th hour to
mhm,
help us.
mhm.
And it's a learning curve, because once we get past that, for a lot of us, it's the first of its own experience. And we're like ready to pull our hair out, but they're just like, you did it.
You did it. You
And you're,
submitted, and that's like the first step to submit the
yes,
application. And then it's like, okay, you get it or you don't, and then you would like actually have to go through the experience.
you know, that applying for the experience is an experience.
Yeah.
And like having so many conversations with my mentor, then he was just like, I would come to him and I was like, you know, I need to, like, so many things I need to do. And he'd go and he'd be like, breathe, just breathe for a second.
Just breathe.
Okay.
Let's have a Zen moment.
I'm gonna walk through this. Because we're in between classes. And then you're just like,
Yeah.
okay, you help me with this speech.
Yeah. You're like, I'm running to class. I have 30 minutes.
Oh,
Like, talk to me.
I was a speed walker all through college. I was like, I don't got time to walk slow.
That probably helped in New York City.
Yeah,
You
I
fit
got
right
it down.
in.
I was like, how can I think I'm from here?
Yes. Yes. That's funny. My friends would be like, oh, there's Alicia. She's like running somewhere.
Oh my gosh. Even now at work, I just walk fast everywhere. I'm
Yeah.
like, girl, just chill for a second.
It's like, no, I got things to do, people to see.
I'm like, yeah.
Too funny. Well, through all of those experiences, is there anything you would tell your younger self if you could speak to her?
Oh, yeah. Gosh, breathe.
Mm,
and be kind to yourself.
Mm.
And then, I mean, I think those are just like the two. I went through a really, really hard, I mean, lots of traumatic experiences, really from middle school into college, early 30s. And I didn't know just even how to have compassion with myself. I didn't I didn't even have the thought in my mind that like my mental health doesn't have to be a battle. Like I can just be gentle with me. I think like a lot of the weight I have carried through my life, and I'm starting to understand it even better now in my 30s. And I think I would just tell myself like, you're going to be okay. You're going to figure it out. And, yeah, I think I would give myself a hug.
Yes.
And just be like, you have a big heart and you love to work hard at what you care about, which is people.
Right.
And I think I would just be like, yeah, like go easy on yourself.
Yeah.
It's weight of the world feels like it's on your shoulders, but it's not. Reach out, let people show you they care about you, and just you don't have to like beat yourself up for everything. And that's things out of my control. That's seeing loved ones go through things. I think I would just be like, hey, things have happened to you that are out of your control. And trauma is real. And when traumatic things happen to the body, it's like you really have to go next level of being kind to yourself. And I know for me, I just pushed even harder because when you're going through instability, it's like, I don't have a choice. Like, I cannot mess up. I don't have the room to slack off. Cause it's like, you don't know what I'm going home to. And like, I don't even know like if I'm going to a home or if I'm going to someone's couch, like it's that level of instability that is really, it's very, very easy to just be like, I'm not doing enough. Why can't I get it together? So I think just those are very like what I'm learning now at this place in my life is just take care of yourself. And even like your value is not in everything you're doing. It just starts with you just being and caring, like being in a good place and just like taking care of your body, your mind. Everything gets better from there. That's the glow up.
Yes. Your glow up into your soft girl era or soft woman era.
Yeah, soft but strong,
Yes. Like to be
like it's like an inner peace. There's a peace that comes that is really, it has to come just from within. And it has to come from like a place of forgiveness because I know like being a first gen, it comes with a lot of frustrations and it can be angering, confusing, lost. There's just a lot that we have to process. And I think like just giving yourself grace. Yeah. It's really, for me, it's like a new conversation, inner dialogue of like, good, you're good.
I love that. That's a perfect way to like wrap up the conversation of like, you're good, you'll be good, and give yourself a hug, rest into your body, and like treat your body how it deserves, right? Like how you navigate what's that book? It's called The Body Keeps Score or something like that.
I'm reading that right now.
Oh, you
You just
are?
gave me goosebumps. Reading it right now. Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
powerful book.
Yes,
It's
yes.
like, whew, you gotta be, it's like, it's so real. It's so raw. And it's just example after example of different layers of traumatic experiences that ultimately, when it's really a book of self-care and self-awareness and having compassion towards other people, because you never know what someone's gone through. First gen comes with a lot of experiences specific to us and the American system,
right?
Education system,
right?
But yeah, it's, trauma is also, I think, something that is such a starting point of really understanding empathy and self-care, and then like a toolkit of what do you do when you're like crumbling, or you're trying to heal from the past.
Right. It's
I love that book.
In tandem. I'll definitely share the link to that book and all the information in the show notes so everyone can check it out. It's definitely a powerful like internal processing and dialoguing with self and healing from all of that, whatever you've been through in life.
Yeah. And continue to go through,
and
because that's life.
Right, that's life. That's this journey that we're on. So it's about how do we build our toolkit, how do we build our community and our spaces to like build that resiliency, knowing that we already have that resiliency, grit and hustle, and how can we lean more into grace, compassion for self and others, and like a softness to our experiences.
I think that our society conversations around like mental health and trauma and talking about representation in marginalized groups, I think we are making growth in, like, we're having this conversation right here, it's a step. And I think we're gonna see more growth, and just it's gonna get better from here. It's messy. It's a messy process, but I mean, we have the book, we have the language for it now. Like we can actually unpack these things, and theory helps with that. Education is just, my gosh, education is everything for me. It's freedom.
Me too.
Even though it's so brutally stressful sometimes.
It is. I think education and knowledge production is not the brutal part. What the brutal part is the system through which we operate, right? So I think education is, like you said, liberation and freedom and the root of it all. And the way that it's indoctrinated is the like system of oppression that we don't vibe with.
Yeah, because the opposite effect it has is insight and context and like aha moments. And finally, like, I didn't know that's what that was back then, but now like I actually can verbalize what I was going through, or like how I see that, and it gives you the way to communicate and pinpoint a goal, an objective, a solution. I definitely, I see myself in academia again at some point. I don't know in what capacity, but I miss the classroom. I miss campus. I miss these conversations.
The energy behind it. Would you want to get your PhD in journalism?
PhD potentially. I would also love to teach. I would love to work with other journalists who, maybe are taking a step back from the newsroom and teach. I would love to maybe go back to Columbia and do a broadcast class, or, a documentary class, or just even a class in ethics and representing my marginalized communities ethically. And, really, how do we tell the stories of marginalized people with more like fair context and really like clear, insightful writing that truly educates.
I love that.
I guess that's our ending thought.
You heard it here. Columbia University. She's open to hire for broadcast, ethical representation. Give Samantha a call.
Yeah, call me.
I love that.
Something. I'll see you there. I'll let you know when I'm in town.
Yes, New York City. I will drop all of her links to follow her. Make sure you follow her journey on Instagram, on Facebook. Be in touch with her if you want to learn more about journalism. She is a great human mentor, support for us first gen homies.
Oh,
And
yeah.
any last parting words, nuggets of wisdom?
Well, I had there's two things. I had Harlem Globetrotters come through my show
Mm.
today, and they are a vibe. I had so much fun with them. And they just said one thing was believe in yourself,
Oh, yeah.
hustle, stay in the moment. And then the other thing is just like, yeah, just be good with you, reach out for support, reach out for mentorship. Know that you need help and there's people that are down to help you.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. We're out
Yeah.
here. And if
Right. We're here.
we're out here, if you don't know who to start, who to talk to, or where to start, send me a DM on Instagram.
Yeah,
I'm
just
at
start somewhere.
start somewhere, and if I don't know the answer, I'll find someone to support you. There's someone at your institution. As much as it might feel like there isn't, I can assure you there's either a trio mentor or someone in student affairs who believes in this work, or multicultural center that's there to support you. So reach out to us and we'll find that for you. We'll help you email them. We'll give you some training, some tools, some coaching around how to email people or cold message on LinkedIn. We'll help you with that. And make sure you stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you so much, Samantha. This was great. Did you want to add
Don't stop
something?
at the don't stop at the no. If you're not
Yes.
finding quite the people, they're just not your people. Like, keep going.
Yes. Yes.
And you are so good at networking and finding your people. I mean, that's how I'm here with you. So,
Thank
yeah,
you.
social media.
I love social media for that. So yes, don't stop at the first no or the second or the third. We're here. Sometimes we may not see it right away, but we're here. We're paying attention. So please check in with yourself and us. And until the next one, my friends.
This was amazing. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.